And it's getting late, so we're going to get right down to work. I'm going to start with you, Senator. What should we do in Iraq now? Welcome to Aspen.
I'm not much on absolute deadlines. What I am in favor of is changing the basic strategy. And the strategy that I would recommend would be one where we basically said we're going to complete the training mission, the Army, police force. Army is doing a lot better than the police force in Iraq. That we're going to protect the borders, that we're going to do what we can to take care of al-Qaeda, and that we're going to encourage political reconciliation. But what we're not going to do is continue to be involved in the urban civil war between religions. Now, that's a different strategy. And I think it's important to start the withdrawal process, but I would not put an absolute deadline on it because I think it's too complicated and complex. I also would add that we have to take into account not simply Iraq, but what's happening in other parts of the world because of Iraq. In Afghanistan, we're heading in the wrong direction. In Iraq, I think the surge plus the arising by the Sunni community against al-Qaeda has helped. But in Afghanistan, we're heading in the wrong way, and we're going to have more of everything in Afghanistan, and both of them have to be considered together. And I'd add one third dimension that is even harder, and that is, what do we do about Pakistan? And the answer is there's no real easy answer on Pakistan, and we're so unpopular there that we're going to have...
Does being in Iraq hurt us in Pakistan?
Well, I think there are a lot of things that have hurt us in Pakistan, but they are getting more and more radical in many ways. But they've had an election. Maybe there's some hope in that. But right now, I'd say of all three of them, Pakistan may be the most dangerous and the most difficult.
What would you do in Iraq now?
Let me tell you what I think the next president is going to be faced with and what he will have to do, whether it's Senator McCain or Senator Obama. The drawdown will have to continue because the armed forces of the United States cannot sustain this level of deployment indefinitely. I've been with young officers recently at our Command and General Staff College at Fort Leavenworth, 1,000 of them that I lectured to. 70% of them had been to one or the other place 2 or 3 times already, and 70% of them were going back. We're in the 6th, going on the 7th year of this, and so the drawdown has to continue because it just can't be continued. The deployment can't be continued at this level. Even the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff said yesterday, Admiral Mullen, that I can't do all of the things that people want me to do with the force structure I have. So the next president will have to sit down with the commanders of the armed forces of the United States, with the Joint Chiefs of Staff, with his new political and diplomatic advisors, and determine at what rate that drawdown continues. The second thing the president's going to have to do is to make a judgment of when we change the basic strategy in the direction that Senator Nunn said, or in some other direction, to match the drawdown that's going to have to take place. I believe that you're going to have to make a judgment of what does, quote, winning or bringing it to a conclusion mean. And I think you're going to have to set some parameters for the Iraqi leadership that says, look, we will start to draw down and pull back from this direct active engagement in fighting al-Qaeda or protecting things. You're going to have to do that. And then you're going to have to get on with political reconciliation. We both have been, neither one of us has been elected with the American people expecting some change. And the American people are going to say, well, if the surge was successful, and if reconciliation is successful, then we can draw down. They're also going to say, if reconciliation and the surge have not been as successful as we would like it to be, guess what? We're going to draw down. So in either instance, the drawdown will continue, and the burden will increasingly be placed upon the Iraqi political leadership to get their act together and come to some level of reconciliation. How long that drawdown takes place, that's a matter for the president to make a judgment on with his military advisors. Perhaps it should be a drawdown to more central locations to guard the border, maybe chase al-Qaeda, but get out of this direct engagement with the population and let them get on with political reconciliation. I fully agree with Sam that Afghanistan is going to be a more challenging problem for us than Iraq is. Iraq will resolve itself, I believe, under Iraqi leadership. It is not going to be the kind of democracy that people have been dreaming of. It'll be something far from that, but it'll be theirs to determine. Afghanistan, I think, is a much more serious problem because you have to look at it in the context of Pakistan, as Senator Nunn said. And the situation there has deteriorated. The tribal areas are wide open now for infiltration back and forth across the border. And I don't see Pakistani forces or Pakistani political authorities getting a handle on that. And we have a serious drug problem in Afghanistan. We have corruption in the government. The government is not extending its control throughout the country, and Al-Qaeda is regrouping, the Taliban is regrouping, and they're attacking us in an asymmetrical way now, which is harder to deal with. And the stakes are higher in certain ways because NATO is involved. Our European allies are involved. And so if they start to lose faith in their ability to create a more stable Afghanistan, then we're going to be in real trouble. I'm more worried about Afghanistan at the moment than I am Iraq.
But given what you just said, would it have made, in retrospect, more sense to have focused on Afghanistan than to have invaded Iraq?
One can make that argument.
What do you think?
Iraq was a challenge, and it was a problem. And the belief of the intelligence community, a belief that was acted on by a majority of the Congress, and by the President, and by our allies, and by our commanders, was that they had weapons of mass destruction. And therefore, it was a danger. It's a danger we could have let ride longer, but the President chose to deal with it now. I think there was a feeling within the administration, and it was probably premature, that Afghanistan was under control.
Right.
We had a leader who looked like he could do what needed to be done. And we were working with President Musharraf, who would come over on our side and was fully supporting us. But we really didn't fully understand the tensions that existed within Pakistan that brought about the changes we have seen and the kind of competence I had hoped to see in Kabul after 7 years I have not yet seen.
Were you